I'm here today to tell you about the future-proof, about my story. And the subject is why transparency and sustainability has to be in the company's DNA. And there is a question, how am I? So I suppose it should be like, who am I? But thank you for the question. I'm good. It's inspiring to be here. So as I said, I'm Outi Korpilaakso, and why I'm here, I'm the founder of company Lovia. I'm working also as a creative director and CEO at the company. So what we do with Lovia is that we create bags with excess materials and with this full transparency. So we reveal everything behind our products. And I know today here is a lot of people from different fields. So this is a point of view from fashion, but I wish I can share some inspiration for you from my story. Yes, so my personal path. I have been working as a designer in a field for 20 years almost now. And when I started my career, I got quite tired after a few years for the mass production of the fashion industry. There was all the problems that we know, mass production chains and people behind there was hidden. And I really felt there was nothing I could do, and there was nothing where I could impact in a big company. So I didn't have a voice there. And then there is a little voice. Is it coming from my hair or, sorry? Sorry. Yeah. Sometimes it's a problem. Okay, it's a show. Okay, it's fashion. Well, yeah, so where was I? So I felt I couldn't do anything. So I got really exhausted because I worked against my values. So in that point, I had to take a break, like 1.5 years. I was really, really in a bad shape. And after that, I had to make the decision if I wanted to continue my career as a designer or do just something else. And at first, I really thought that I couldn't continue. But when I tried to think what to do next, I didn't figure it out. So I came back with the idea okay, if I want to work as a designer, how could I do it? Would there be a way, how could I change the things, how they go? And because I have this skill, so is there actually something that I could affect from the inside of the industry? So if there would be some kind of justification for me to work as a designer. So what happened then was that I was thinking I can continue if there is 2 principles I can follow. If it's possible to utilize the materials that actually already exists, and the second, if we are able to create fully transparent operating model where actually the people and the environment are respected. And then I founded Lovia 2014. And Lovia is based fully on these 2 principles. And at the time, nobody was talking about the transparency or circular economy in a fashion. So we were really pioneering this thing. And then we actually noticed that there is a really big waste problem with the excess cutting waste. So I found this, there is 10,000 tons of excess cutting waste from Finnish furniture industry. So there is a real opportunity to solve this kind of problem. because otherwise these cutting waste would go to a problem waste and burning. So that would be a really big waste, because it's a really big resource. Like this material, how do you say, it contains a really big resource in it. So we had a material, and with this material it meant that I had to create a bag collection. I haven't done that before, but because I wanted to be, I wanted to solve the problem, so that was the answer. And then we had the bag collection with the DNA transparency concept, which means that actually each bag has its own unique DNA code, and it reveals all the material sources, makers, and pricing details, and a carbon footprint of every product. And in that sense, I really feel that for me the bag is a tool of activism. So actually I identify myself more as an activist, as a designer. It's just a form of fashion and in designing. Because I think Lovia bag is a baton that embodies the full circularity and complete transparency. Because this one bag carries with it all the information behind its production chain, and the story continues with its customer and owner. And then, so here is what I've learned with the transparency DNA, or how do we work with it. So here you can see one example from this Hilla bag here. So this is how does it work. Hilla has its own DNA code inside, and also the individual number. And then we show you all these are articles you can click in. So we show you exactly this bag's production chain. And then we also open this CO2 numbers in our website and archive, and the transparent pricing. And when we do this, it means that DNA is a validation method for our choices and way to communicate it. So it's a really big responsibility. When we do some actions and choices, we really have to think, can this be visible? So when you have this gut feeling like, so you definitely know that, okay, this is not a good thing. Like, if I cannot feel really like standing on my feet, like how could anyone else? But yeah. But then we have this kind of like gray area, because it would be easy if we always could say like, yes, this is great, or yes, this is bad, we don't do it. But we have a lot of these areas that are not black and white. And that's where I think this transparency concept is really, really important, because it's an important way of communication. And what this kind of like communicating could look like, or these decisions. So, for example, we have this. We use one of our materials is elk leather from Finnish. How to say it, like overpopulation hunting for elks. So it happens anyway, but actually the leathers are not used. But in Finland there is one factory that we are able to work with, and they can produce it. But with this factory we use this chrome tanning. And then people ask like, okay, why do you use this chrome tanning? Because we think that vegetable tanning would be more sustainable. And then there is like, okay, so we have had this choice in this place with our production chain and with our circumstances like this, because like, okay, we produce the elk leather in Finland in a factory where it's closed loop with the production. So the chrome that goes in, it also stays in the process, and after the use, it can be utilized again or took out, and we and it's like taken to the like problem waste center, and that's like, okay, we can do it safely. But if we would use this chrome and we would produce our leather, for example, in Pakistan or India, in somewhere where this kind of production is not possible. So people would actually put their hands and feet on this liquid and do the job. So obviously, if we would do this job somewhere else, the decision would be different. And then when it comes to vegetable tanning, so actually when I tried to figure out this option, it came out that the vegetable tanning the vegetable itself is a, how to say, like flower called mimosa. And it comes actually, it's only one seller in Europe, in Italy, or a few sellers, but the material comes from Amazon. So basically, the thing is that the rainforest is cut out, and then they plant this flower to get this material. And we cannot trace, we tried, but we couldn't trace like who are the people making it, what are the factories, and so on. So basically, I think it's in this case, it's better to do this choice that we can actually trace, and because we produce in Finland. So this is one example for this, like communicating and making the decisions it's hard sometimes, and this is why I think the transparency is the only way to do it, because through that we can show actually the reasons why we did these actions. And then the important part is that we tell when we are honest about our choices, so then the audience has an opportunity actually decide themselves if they can support the values or the choices we made there. So we kind of give our information for people to decide if they believe it or not. And as you can see here, the DNA shows actually our social, environmental, and economic impact. And in future, we want to do more. We want to make it larger and make more. How to say it? Like calculate more of our impact. Yes. Then the revolutionizers and a dialogue. So I think everyone involved like behind production and the customers, everyone, we are revolutionizers participating on the journey for Lovia. And there, I really believe in a collaboration with all of our community and the partners. And that's only possible with the dialogue. So, just a moment. Yeah. So when we learn about the transparency concept, it's kind of the baseline that okay, we do these actions, but then actually it's quite boring stuff. What we've learned, people are not very fascinated. We are like, wow, this transparency concept, and people are like, oh, I'm not interested. I just want to look good, you know. So it's like that. So I think for companies, this kind of like responsibility and sustainable actions should be just like a baseline. It just, you know, it has to be there, but it's not, you know, the triumph that we are like, yeah, we did this, and then we want to give it one way. Like the old way of communication with the brands is like the brand is giving the ideas and the information like one-way street to the customer. But it's not working that way anymore, as we found out. And the new way is dialogue and collaboration, where we can actually do the win-win. And for example here, how we use it is that, because we noticed that when we tried to, we had to figure out like, okay, how to get people actually participating, because our aim is to actually like spread the word about the sustainability and transparency. So how does it work if people doesn't kind of get it or integrate it in their lives? So how to get this information of transparency kind of integrated. So we have been, I think, quite good and successful with communicating with our revolutionizers. And for example, the best ways to do it is to invite them in, for example, in design process. So basically, now we design our spring colors, asking the customers to come in a design stage. Like, okay, we have to decide these colors. What would you prefer? And that was a success. Like, we had like 100 times of more engaged than just like a normal post. And then we have already the customer coming in and they care about the launch. And like when we talk about the design stage and the design process and the production process, at the same time, we of course tell them about the transparency concept and the stuff we do. So it's a win-win situation. Yeah, and I think this like inspiration, people want to get inspired. So you have to talk with the language that your company, like for example, for us, it's fashion language. Like whatever we do, it has to come from the inspiration. And as I told you, people want to look good and do good, and they want to be convinced that they do good, but they may not dig deeper with the transparency, but it has to be there. But then when we got them involved, for example, this designing process or something, then they actually, after that, go and dig deeper. So then it matters that we actually have all this transparency thing visible. And it's important to involve people, because I believe that real sustainable change can happen when people are allowed to participate and are able to integrate the information they receive. So we can just tell how the change is possible, but if we actually don't feel it in our guts, so nothing changes. And then sustainability is a life path, as we all know it. So it has to be based on really strong values, and it requires a purpose-driven attitude and really, really strong motivation. When you found a company with this kind of values and base, you really have to fight many, many difficulties. So it's like, I would say it's like to go to enlightenment when you do this path. So congratulations for all of us. And why it is such work? So, because, I think the only way is that as we know, the sustainability has to be holistically in all around the business model. And it needs to be led through the company's DNA from business strategy to product life cycle. So from the highest up, from the lowest down. Because, for example, for us, it's really important that we have, for example, the investor agreements. It says that there is a statement that we only, the sustainability and transparency and sustainability is the aim for the company. And it's really important because it's obviously not in investor agreements, but it's already the first kind of transparency, or like this kind of like framework where we start working. And it has been really important because, let's say, there has been really a lot of years that have been difficult. So if you start, it has to be in the values, and you do like the choices. You could have easy money or not that easy money. So it's really important. And then when you come to really like for one product, as Satu said, everything starts from the design table. So you decide all the impacts of the product. And the same cycle goes from product design, and when you scale it like a company design. When you're founding a company, you have the same responsibility as with the one product. So if you want to kind of play with this idea, you could think about like how would you recycle your company? What is the impact? Because and the one like a really important point is that you really have to future-proof your product, your business, that you can actually make the sustainable growth. And takeaways. Yeah, so as we said, it's a lifelong journey that requires a lot of motivation and commitment. And the transparency, I believe, is the only way to raise awareness. And when you are aware, you have the opportunity to take responsibility for your choices and the opportunity to choose your impact. And I think this is the most important part, like you can actually choose where to impact. And we here, all the people that do this work, you have to accept that everything changes all the time when we gain more knowledge. And so this is continuous development is part of the process towards a better tomorrow. So it's a challenge to be, we might sometimes feel quite overwhelmed because anything is ready, never. And you're always like fighting the time. So it's really important to remember breathe and rest and take care of yourselves, because that's the best way we can actually inspire others and change things. Because, as we know, real change can only be achieved with power of people, the people who thrive this movement, and the people who are actually coming along. And it goes through the inspiration. And where to start? It's inner work to create the change, and everything starts from the heart. For all you pioneers and the change makers, with love.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Outi. That was a fabulous talk. And I think what you raised here was the excellence, radical decisions of how a product and a service can act as an example and as a form of like what's the word? What's the word now? Activism, yes, activism. How can a product or a service act as a form of activism? I think that's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.